These are the 3 biggest tips for beginners in surplus funds. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Spencer Van. It's a pleasure to have you. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 biggest tips for beginners with surplus funds. Now, I've been in this niche and industry for 5-6 years now, and in that time, I've gone from basically the only guy online talking about surplus funds to, now I've got a ton of other people talking about surplus funds. Some people even saying that it's the new sauce, that they're, making things up after they took my course, which I just find ironically hilarious. But regardless of that, because of all this new publicity about surplus funds, obviously there's a lot of new eyeballs in this niche. And so if you're new here, welcome. I'm excited to have you. And really, I wanted to make this video for you and give you some tips into how you can get your first deal the quickest, make the most amount of money the quickest, and most importantly, have the least headache possible when it comes to surplus funds. So these are the 3 tips that all beginners need to know when getting started with surplus funds. And tip number 1 is understand that surplus funds is a numbers game. Now, while I don't think there's really any selling involved in surplus funds, in fact, it's really, you're just telling people they're owed money and offering to work with them. You're not really selling them on anything. It is a numbers game. You're gonna talk to people that, honestly kind of surprises me, but you're gonna talk to people and you're gonna say, hey, you're owed $10,000, and they just won't believe you. And it doesn't matter what you do, you can convince them, you can try to convince them, you can talk to their relatives, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're gonna have to say, man, this person is just too skeptical to believe me. And that's okay. That's okay. You don't need to work with everyone, because the beautiful thing about surplus funds is, look, if you close one deal and you make 2, 3, 4, 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 30, 50 grand from that one deal, well, that makes all the other calls worth it. So it is a numbers game. It's funny, I have people all the time ask me, they say, Spencer, this just seems too good to be true. Why would anybody say no to free money? And it's not that they say no to free money, it's the fact that they just don't believe it's even real, right? And that's really tip number 2, is understand that this business is all about one word, and that one word is trust, right? So when you're talking to people, you need to come across as someone that can be trusted. And hopefully you are someone that can be trusted. Hopefully you don't have to try to pretend to be that person. But you need to be that person, because, quite frankly, if somebody called me and was like, hey, you're at 100 grand, I'd be a little skeptical too at first if I didn't know about everything I know of, right? But the beautiful thing about it is, if you do have that ability to build trust with people, this business is going to be very, very, very easy for you, and you're going to do very, very, very well. So how can you build trust? Well, what's the key to building trust? Well, the first thing is to understand and be a good listener. Now, that seems a little weird, but let me give you an example of this. I always say, this is just human psychology 101. Men, we typically communicate in a certain way. This is how we communicate. Hey, what's up, bro? Do you want to go to the park and play basketball? Yeah, man, I'll meet you there. Perfect, I'll see you at 5:30, okay? That's how we communicate. It's very direct, it's very in a straight line. Typically, again, I'm generalizing here, but just go with me, okay? Women, in many cases, don't communicate in the same way. And it's not better or worse, they just don't communicate in the same way. This is why, there's all these books about men are from Mars, women are from Venus, because they don't communicate, we don't communicate in the same way in many instances. So the way that a lot of women communicate is, hey, do you want to go to the mall? Oh my God, I just got my hair done at that mall. It was amazing. You should get your hair done and dyed blonde too, and da-da-da. And it's this whole and it's not a direct conversation. It's all over the place, right? So one of the things that you have to learn, okay, is to speak the other person's language, right? And this is not just in relationships, but this is in surplus funds. That's why I'm bringing it up, right? So if you get on the phone with someone, you can see that somebody is a more laid back person and is not full of energy, right? Well, I'm not going to get on the phone and be like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? No, I'm going to be like, hey, man. It's nice to meet you. My name's Spencer. And I'm going to speak in a tone that's familiar to them, right? It's the same thing with, relationships, the idea I just brought up, where it's like, if you're a man and you're talking very directly and you're talking to, it can be another man, it can be another girl, whatever, that talks very, not direct, but talks, goes from topic to topic to topic, right? Well, and you try to talk directly with them, it's not going to work, right? So that's why you need to be a good listener and figure out what type of communicator this person is. Are they very straightforward? Are they very direct? Are they very high energy? Are they low energy? Are they someone that's very cerebral and wants to think things through? I've been on calls with people who are asking them a question. Hey, did you used to live at 123 Main Street? And this is the response. Yeah, I did. Okay, that's the response. It's like a deep breath in. They got to think about it for about 15 seconds, and yeah, I did. I live there, right? Versus if you ask me that question, I'm like, yeah, I live there. Absolutely. The third tip for beginners is to understand that 98% of your money is in the follow-up. So I see so many people that, they go out and they make their initial calls to people and, they don't get someone that's jumping for joy and saying, yes, let's work for them right away. And then they give up. And the reality is that they would have just went back a week later, the next day for Pete's sake, right? And called back to people and said, hey, have you had some time to think about it? Does this make sense for you? That they would have 2, 3, 4, 5 deals lined up if they would have done that. And I always say this, that for every one deal you get on the first call, you probably could have get 3, 4, or 5 more if you had a better follow-up sequence. In the online business world, they talk about that for every $1 you make with your initial advertising, you'll make $30, $40, $50 on the back end, right? Which is amazing to think about, right? How much more money there is by just following up with people. It's the same thing with surplus funds. If you only call people once, it doesn't really give them very many opportunities. They get one opportunity. I always like to use this example because I know I was very guilty of this. So mom, if you're watching, please comment below and let the audience know I'm not bluffing here. This is the truth. When I was a kid and I asked my mom for something and she said, oh no, not right now. Well, I would immediately ask her again, but in a different phrase. So I would be like, hey, is it okay if I have a cookie, right? No, not right now. I'd look at my watch 1 second go by and say, well, what about now, right? And that's an annoying thing that kids do. But the point is that, you got to ask many, many, many times to get a yes. And listen, if it takes you 27 times to ask a question, you get no 26 times. On the 27th time you finally get a yes and you make 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand or more, right? Was it worth it? The answer to that question is probably yes. So those are my 3 tips for beginners. Hopefully that makes sense. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, drop a like down below and of course hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because once per month we give away a free mini course on how to do this business successfully that we normally charge for. And if you want to be notified when we do our next live stream giveaway, you got to be notified with subscribing turned on. So with that being said, I'll see you on the next video.